Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Peak Results Academy podcast. I'm your host, Rich Fournier, and today I sit down with Steve Saretsky. Now, Steve is a Vancouver real estate agent and author behind one of Vancouver's most popular real estate blogs. His YouTube channel has received over 1.2 million views and has almost 9,000 subscribers to his channel. He's widely considered a thought leader in the industry with regular appearances on BNN, CBC, CKNW, CTV, and he's also a contributor to BC Business Magazine. Now, Steve's dedication to analyzing the stats, financial landscape, and policies affecting Vancouver real estate have allowed him to build a very successful business among the top 2% of Greater Vancouver real estate agents. It's a fantastic interview, and hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did interviewing Steve. Thanks again. Take care.
Have you ever wondered why some people thrive in all areas of their life? Welcome to the Peak Results Academy podcast with your host, Rich Fournier. Each week, we interview industry experts who consistently dominate in the fields of health, business, and beyond. Our mission is to share their personal struggles and strategies so that you can create your own peak results. Welcome to the Academy.
Hello, everybody. Rich Fournier here for the Peak Results Academy podcast. I'm your host, and today I'm super excited to have a gentleman, an educated guy, a real estate agent from Vancouver, Steve Saretsky. Did you even say that right, Steve? I'm so excited. I apologize, but you've had some extreme results out in the Vancouver market. I've been watching you for about 2 years now, and really, you have the most popular blog in Vancouver. You are interviewed all over the place. You were on Yahoo Finance the other day. You've been a regular contributor on BNN. And you have one of the most trafficked YouTube channels in Canada for the real estate market. Super excited to have you here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a humbling intro.
Well, you've done extremely well. Let's be honest. I mean, this podcast is about trying to figure out what creates a peak result in someone's life and their business. And this is maybe a little bit of a different type of interview space for you. Typically, you're talking economics, what's happening in the market, fiscal policy, economic policy. Today, we're talking about you as a realtor and as a performer in the real estate industry. You're in one of the most competitive markets in the world, Vancouver real estate. And you have done something that very few people do. Your YouTube channel currently today has 1.25 million views on it. You're closing in on 9,000 subscribers, 282 videos. I mean, it's an extraordinary accomplishment. So how much of that does that contribute to your success in the real estate business?
Yeah, it's been a pretty big driver. I mean, I think that I get a lot of agents that ask that locally, and I think that they're kind of surprised. I think people kind of think like, social media is just for fun and entertaining, and, you can't drive business from it, but it's definitely driven a lot of business for myself. And I think that, more and more people are going to start to catch on that it's kind of just a new way of engaging with people. And that's where everything's going. And I think that, if you're not actively marketing and participating on social media, I think that you're going to be left behind.
I think so as well. I mean, I did some research on your channel. You've been really active. Well, I think the channel started in 2015. But the last 4 years you've been much more active, and you started like everyone else did, 25 views, 50 views on your videos. And then have you done anything special to promote this type of social media YouTube videos? Like, is there back-end marketing, SEO linking, or is it just being you delivering great content and great information to the public? The truth. Yeah,
it's a good question. First and foremost, I started like everyone else. I was terrible, nervous. But I think over time, as you start to get your rhythm, you start to become more confident. You start to, I think it's more so just about producing good content. So it's just really just dialing in on what makes you unique. What do you have that's important to say that, maybe they can't get from anyone else. And so I think through that, that's pretty much it. Is my channel's basically grown organically over, I put out a video a week every Saturday morning for the past, 3 years. And so, I think it's the consistency that has slowly built the audience, drip by drip kind of thing. And, there's certain things that you can do to SEO and enhance it, but that's not what's going to drive, consistent views and engagement. It might get you an extra couple hundred views here and there. And, over time that might compound, but certainly I think that the priority for people trying to build a social media brand or whatever is just putting out engaging, informative content.
You did something which was a little bit unique. It wasn't just about community. It wasn't just about this neighborhood. It wasn't about this school. It wasn't about this business. You talked real numbers that, you're super honest about what you believe is happening in the markets. And currently some of your views are definitely not positive for the real estate market in general, based on economics, not just on personal opinion, but based on economics. And whereas a lot of what I see out there today in the real estate space, it's always pump, 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 pump. It's an amazing thing. You should always be in real estate. You should always be buying real estate. You've kind of gone the opposite way. You've kind of gone, in my opinion, more truthful about what's happening.
Yeah. Again, I think it's kind of like what sets you apart, what makes you maybe unique. And I feel like deep down inside me is I have a different perspective on it. Like, obviously I believe real estate long-term is going to create wealth for many people, and it's proven to do that, and it will continue to do so. But I think that, this adage that, it's always a good time to buy or sell. It's like, well, no, it's either a buyer's market or a seller's market. It's one or the other. And so I think when people are making large decisions, as they are in Vancouver and Toronto, that they basically just want, objective information so they can make their decision, right? Like maybe right now with COVID-19, maybe it's not the best time to make a real estate purchase. Maybe the prices will drop. We don't know that for sure. But at the end of the day, you still have people out there that I have clients right now, for example, they feel that it's probably not the best time to buy. They're probably only getting a 5% discount today. But at the end of the day is they want to move on with their lives. They want to, put their family in a home. So people will still buy, even if you put out, less positive news. I think that they just ultimately want to hear, they just want to make an informed decision, basically.
I agree with you completely. I reached out to you last year, one for a client, two, because I enjoy your content. You're very honest. You're stating some things that the average person in our industry is not communicating about, and I appreciate that. When you sit down to develop your content, does it take you a lot during the week? I know a lot of our listeners are really trying to figure out how do they create more momentum in their business? How do they create a peak result in a certain area? And I know they're very interested in video, but I don't see a lot of people producing the type of content or the consistency that you do. Is that like part of your business system to do this now?
Yeah, basically. I spend a lot of time. I spend it on usually like, probably a couple hours a day reading. A lot of it's financial news because that's what I'm passionate about. So that's kind of how my channel is based around. It's like, hey, here's some financial news, and here's kind of what I found interesting this week. And I basically curate, the best pieces or the most relevant to my audience. And then I basically put a 15-minute video together for that week, or, I'll put out a blog post or a newsletter for the week. And a lot of it, again, is just curated out of, maybe we had a data set that came out. Maybe, CMHC put out their predictions. Maybe I can talk about that. Or, we have data that says 15% of mortgages have been deferred. Like, to me, that's an interesting data point. And now how can I discuss that and its relevancy for people's, decision-making in real estate? So that's kind of how I've framed it. It's just, I'm already reading the news, a couple hours a day. May as well just take out some tidbits and talk about it and do it consistently.
Now, do you find that this has just been an organic process? You never went out there and promoted the YouTube channel yourself?
Yeah, I haven't put any money at all, $0 behind YouTube. I think over the last couple of years, I put in a little bit of money behind like Facebook ads in terms of promoting like my newsletter and some blog posts. But you're talking maybe $5,000 over the last couple of years. So it hasn't really been much. It's been mostly organic. Obviously, being on news channels and stuff kind of helps with that. So yeah, just trying to grow it slowly and consistently at this point.
But you would never have gotten on those YouTube, on those news media channels without your YouTube channel.
Yeah, actually, yeah, a lot of the media stuff is derived from, because the media sources their information and their people differently. So like obviously, a news reporter with the Globe and Mail isn't probably going on YouTube to watch a 15-minute video, but they will scroll through Twitter, and I'm quite active on Twitter. So, if there's something I have to say about the housing market, they go, oh, well, this guy just put out this interesting information on the housing market. Maybe we should do a story about that, and let's interview him for it. So, the media is typically coming through my Twitter channel or through my blog, just because I think that's most relevant for them. And then I think at the same time, that's why you kind of want to be in several different social media channels, because like everybody has their own way of engaging with content. Like some people prefer just to read a 2-minute, 3-minute blog, and some people want to watch a 15-minute video. And I think you have to have some flexibility.
What has enabled you to have the emotional capacity to keep going though on this, especially in the beginning? 4 years ago when you started being, or 3 years ago when you started being consistent, I mean, you weren't getting, I don't know how much business you were doing at the time, but like to start and then to be consistent and not see any results or seeing your 24 views, like what gave you that strength of character to continue on doing something when there were no results?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe blind faith at the time, and slowly kind of got better and refined. I think I changed a little bit of my content too. Before it was kind of like the how-tos, and the how-tos have been done by so many people, so many different times. So I slowly, as I started becoming more passionate about finance, I started incorporating that into my content, and then I think that's basically when it started to take off. So. Yeah, just consistently, but yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think the content really paid off for probably the first year and a half.
Even with the new content.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously the new content now, I mean, it's like a machine where, it's kind of working as you sleep. So it's producing me business even when I'm sleeping. There's new leads coming in, etc. People reaching out. But certainly for the first, year and a half, I mean, you might get the odd occasional email that says, hey, I might buy, but I'll reach out to you in 12 months kind of thing. So yeah, it wasn't really driving a whole lot of business, but and now, it took some time, right? Right.
It does take a lot of consistent effort. That I understand right now. When you look at, did you have any advice? Did you consult with any companies about what you're doing? Or was you just said, I'm making a decision, this is what we're going to do?
No, I mean, it's pretty much my own. I mean, obviously I have some mentors in the space that, I've kind of followed, one of them being like Gary Vaynerchuk, who I think he's built a really successful personal brand, and he's written a lot of books and helpful YouTube videos. So I think if you just kind of take his blueprint, I think that's kind of the recipe for success. And I've met him several times and spoken with him on numerous occasions. So he's been kind of the mentor in that aspect. And I think anyone that's trying to build like a personal brand or whatever, I think that he's certainly someone to look to as, hey, look, this guy's done it. He doesn't just talk about it. And so I kind of just followed his blueprint.
Got it. If you don't mind me asking, you can decline the answer on this one. If you looked at a percentage today, or say even the last year, Steve, how much of a percentage would your business come from this channel that you've built?
I think through various channels, because sometimes, through all the channels combined, I would say probably 70%. Yeah.
And that rest of the year.
Yeah, the rest of it's organic. I mean, even like the referrals I get, right? Like these are people that, for example, let's say someone found me, they might be like, this is typical for me, like an investment advisor. So they obviously have a, higher net worth clientele. So an investment advisor, like, hey, I've been reading your blog, and you have good information on the housing market. And then we'll just kind of keep in touch, go for a beer, just talk about markets. And then, 6 months later, they might be like, oh, actually, yeah, you know what? We have a client that's looking to sell an investment condo. We've referred your name to them. They might be reaching out, and then that individual reaches out to you, right? So, I just find that it's kind of all encompassing. That
you're speaking the language of higher net worth people, and I think that's really important. Like I came from the from the investment world, and when I was in that space, we had an agent that we actually referred to because he spoke the same language.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Is I've come to appreciate that more and more. It's just, I think initially you're almost thinking, well, I want to like grow this to as many viewers as I can. But then you almost kind of at the same time as you realize that like, that's not necessarily the most important thing either. Because then you get, you might get 100,000 views, but 70,000 of those are just people that you don't want anything to do with. They're not really your tribe, I would call it.
The economic collapse people?
Yeah, the collapse people are really bad. And, it's negative. It's just, and, they don't have the same worldview, but they clicked on your video because, you did this clickbait type title and, you were able to siphon all these, crazy people to your channel. I'd just prefer to have, a nice niche, channel following where people are loyal, they're dedicated, they like you, they trust you, they're willing to test your views, but doing it respectfully. And so that's kind of something I've come to appreciate. It's just, it's not always about how big and how many followers and how many likes you can get, but how much depth your audience has.
On the Vancouver real estate board, how many agents are there? 13,000?
Greater Vancouver. So we have two, we live in the lower mainland here. So there's two boards that basically dominate. So there's Greater Vancouver, which has 14,000 realtors. And then you have the Fraser Valley, which I believe is like 6,000. So basically in the lower mainland, we have about 20,000 licensed.
And you're around the top 2% now?
Yeah. So Greater Vancouver are the 14,000. I was in the top 2 last year.
Says a lot. Like it's a super competitive market, especially with a lot of people coming from overseas. And
yeah, it's definitely competitive. I mean, you have guys that have been in this business, obviously, 20, 30 years and have some of these guys obviously have huge ad spends, right. Billboards, bus ads, newspaper ads. And so, I mean, if you're a newer guy up and coming and you're working by yourself, like, you can't compete with that on a dollar to dollar. So I think, again, you have to break in. I think you have to have a different angle and you have to be creative. And so that was kind of how I looked at it. Is like, what is my competitive advantage here?
You've done an amazing job. I mean, how long have you been in the business for?
This is year 6.
So we're almost right out of the gate. You started doing this.
Yeah, I started out really early, man. You go back and look at my 2015 stuff. Like, I'll be the first to admit, I was just winging it. I probably didn't have a whole lot to say and a whole lot of knowledge.
Yeah, no, it says a lot about your character to continue on in that space and to have the faith to you can do that. Now you're reaping the rewards. So if you could give somebody some advice today in regards to, say me, Steve, run a small little real estate business up here north of Toronto. Would it be a good idea for me to do this on a continuous basis and working with those data sets in this local market north up into Wasaga Beach, or should I just focus in on my 180,000 person little town?
Yeah, I think it comes down to like your ambitions, right? It's like, well, do you want to be the guy in that small town? And then I would say just focus on that. And, you can make a great income doing that. But if you have larger ambitions, maybe you want to be the guy for all of Toronto real estate and you want to grow your team and have people working in all these areas under your brand. And I think that, I think you always have to start small and slowly branch out.
Yep.
I think if you look at anyone, to me, it looks like anyone successful. It's like, let's take whatever you can. You can just, for simplicity's sake, let's just take like a successful real estate developer that's, today is building, let's say, high-rise condo towers. Like, there's a good chance they probably started out flipping condos. Maybe they eventually went from there and built a single-family house. Then they built, a townhouse. Now they're building 60-story high-rises. If you ask any of their stories, everybody starts small. So I think, for someone like yourself, if hypothetically, if you were to say, hey, I want to grow my business, I think you kind of start with a niche, you build that niche, build that audience, and then you just slowly expand on that if you have ambitions to do so.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think I talked to you a few months ago. We did one video that was a little bit more styled on you, Gary V, focused. And, I just looked at yesterday. We had, 1,400 views in the last couple of months for a small little town. I thought that was quite a bit.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think too, like if you create like a super niche piece of content for that whatever specific neighborhood, and maybe you have a demographic there, like because it's such a small town, because you're probably one of the only people producing contents, for that specific topic. If you put $1,000, $2,000, whatever behind Facebook ads, I think you just crush it. So yeah, I think it's definitely, you can definitely break through. You just have to be, you can't, I think one of the ways that I have looked at it, and, this is something I've heard from other people, is like, you can't look at yourself as, competing against like other realtors. Like you're competing with the NHL, you're competing with the NFL, you're competing with Budweiser. Everybody's competing for everyone's attention. There's so much noise, there's so much content, everybody's scrolling through their phones on social media. So how are you going to capture someone's attention? I think you have to create very relevant information that's very specific and targeted towards a certain demographic, certain individual. Because if you go too wide, you can't compete with multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar corporations.
Yeah, you see that we have a couple teams here that are one team, 70 people. 70.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's the largest team in Canada, and it's here in this small community. And then we have a second team, which is around maybe 55 people. 600 to 1,000 transactions a year. That's the competition. And when I looked at what you did, I was just looking at. I mean, you've had over 1 million views. like to stop. Like in real estate space, there's no one in Canada that has that. Zero. I checked. I did all the research. I can't find anyone even close to what you've done on a zero budget. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I haven't really, honestly, man. I've just been kind of head down and just driving and trying to keep pushing. So I know that it's been 1 million views, but I haven't looked in terms of like, oh, is that good? And I mean, I know obviously I'm happy with the mini success it feels like in terms of the YouTube channel, but I haven't really kind of digested all of it. It's just, you kind of just keep pushing, especially now. I mean, these are difficult, challenging times, and trying to kind of keep pushing through and I think again, this gives you time to sort of reset, refocus, and focus on what's working and what's going to work in the future.
Got it. I know you're limited for time. We're probably I got 7 minutes left. Let's talk about real estate. Let's talk about what you do best, and that is real estate and what's happening out there today. So I'd love to hear your view over the next 12 months. Where do you see Vancouver real estate going? And are we literally going to have an 18% drop in average resale prices across Canada?
Yeah, man, that's a tough one. I've said this, I think, again, we can talk. One of the things I like about social media, for example, is like it creates this open transparency. So like, for example, I put out a weekly YouTube video where I talk about the market. I can't go on that YouTube channel and say, oh, prices are going to drop 20%. I know it. I'm 100% convinced of it. And then go on Yahoo Finance in front of millions of Canadians and say, oh, no, the market's going to be fine. It's probably going to go up. So I think it kind of holds you to accountability, which is something to consider, because I think we're entering an era of trust and transparency where you can't really, lie and cheat your clients. But anyways, so my kind of view, same thing I said on Yahoo, is that I believe there's so many unknowns that it's too early to draw any conclusions and say, yes, it's a foregone conclusion that prices will drop. What I can say is I think the probabilities to the downside outweigh the probabilities to the upside. a lot of it's going to depend on what happens when these mortgage deferrals expire in September, October. What happens with CERB? Are they going to extend that $2,000? I mean, I don't know if you saw this. The latest statistic is 45% of the Canadian labor force has applied and been, I believe, approved for that $2,000 a month. So again, obviously there's a lot of people cheating it, but there's obviously some people in distress. And so what does it look like? What does that look like in 6 months? And do we get a second wave of infection and this and that? So, my personal view is, what I'm seeing right now, at least in Vancouver, is the condos are coming down. They're probably down about 5 to 7% since COVID came about. And then we have the detached housing market, which actually has been surprisingly resilient. It's not so much that you have this, huge amount of demand and people just can't wait to snatch up a house. It's more because we just haven't seen a lot of inventory. There's been a huge suppression of new listings. And so that's creating a shortage. And so people are coming in there and entering into multiple offers.
Yeah. It's the same thing we're seeing here. I mean, we're now north of Toronto, even center of Toronto. We're seeing the same thing here. My curiosity is what percentage of those people that are currently on mortgage deferral need to be on deferral? Number one. And what percentage of those people on CERB need to be on CERB? And that's, I think, that's the disclaimer. I was talking to a friend the other day. He's got an orthodontist client who is on deferral for 6 months. Doesn't need to be. Makes $600,000 a year, $500,000 a year, but doesn't need to be, but is doing it and taking that money and just paying off the car and then reestablishing it in the back end. So do they need to be on it? Nope, but they're taking it.
Yeah, I know. I've heard a lot of people doing that too. So yeah, it definitely skews the numbers, but yeah, so we're talking 15%. Some of these banks are reporting, 20% of their book is in deferral. And that, it seems like that number across all banks could very well hit 20% over the next, couple months.
Those are those are A borrowers, so A lend.
Yeah. So you're not including, mix and private lenders. So, 20%, I mean, maybe half the people on there shouldn't be deferring or can weather the storm. And so again, maybe 10% is really in distress. I mean, to me, that's still a significant number. Even if it's 5%, that's a big number. I
think in the U.S. at 8%, we had the credit crisis in the U.S. 8% of mortgage default. I think there was an 8% number.
Yeah, forbearance, I believe.
Yeah.
And
even if we're at 5 or anywhere near that.
It's a big number. So, and I don't know. I just think that's my concern really about the housing market is, I'm not really, again, I just think housing moves extremely slowly. So I'm not really too worried, I'm not overly surprised that, parts of the market have held up here. I mean, it's only been really 2.5 months into this sort of economic shock / downturn. And to me, it seems it's going to take a couple of years to kind of get to where we were at least before, pre-virus in terms of where the economy was to get all these jobs back. So yeah, I'm more concerned of what the housing market could potentially look like. Again, potentially being the key word in 6 to 12 months, let's say.
Okay. I know you got to go. I mean, you're in a time crunch. So I appreciate your views on the market. I really appreciate and if anyone wants Steve's views on the market, they can find you at your website, Steve.
SteveSaretsky.com.
Okay. And your YouTube channel. They can watch you once a week. They can subscribe to your newsletter. And if any agents that are here in the Ontario market or anywhere across Canada want to reach you, they can reach you at those channels.
Yeah. Just email me, steve@stevesaretsky.com. Happy to chat markets, whatever. If you have clients you want to refer or just general questions about markets, anything, like I'm pretty open book and open to connecting with others because I think we're living in a connected world. And I think the more you can kind of grow your sphere and people know you, like you, trust you, I think that goes a long way in life and in business. So.
Well, I think what you've done with your videos and your channel, Steve, is that you created a digital relationship with people who watch you, who get to know, like, and trust you through that process. and now I'm a fan. So thank you for everything that you.
Well, yeah, no, likewise, we've connected through here, and I've enjoyed chatting with you, and same thing. Like I look at it now, it's like you reached out, and it's like if I have someone that's looking to relocate, for whatever reason, I mean, like I'm going to be reaching out, right? So I think it's, we're just going in the era of everything's becoming digital and online, and social media is, in my view, is kind of like the early stages. At some point in the next whether that's 5 years or 10 years, or you're going to have virtual reality, and what does that look like? So I just think that as we're seeing with this COVID, right, everything's moving online. You got Zoom meetings, and
Well, I'm going to do my best to mimic you, to follow your lead out here. And I appreciate everything you've done. And just so you know, that information that you share with us about your business and about your process and a little bit of insight into how you've grown your reputation, your digital experience to the consumers out there today, you are impacting other people, because there are other people who are struggling and don't know how to compete, and you're giving them a little bit of advice on how they can compete today. And for the very select few that actually latch on to your advice, you've helped them in an amazing way and probably have impacted their family, not today, but over the next year or 2 years. So just know that. So I really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. And if there's anything we could ever do for you, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's a great chat.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you like what you've heard and you're interested in seeing if you are fit to work with Peak Results Academy, here's what I want you to do next. Head over to peakresultsacademy.com/call. That's peakresultsacademy.com/call and book an appointment to speak with our team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 45 minutes and get you crystal clear on 3 things. Number 1, what do you really want out of life and your business? Number 2, what is not working for you today? And number 3, the exact strategy you should be using to create massive change in these areas. Remember, changing your life and creating massive results does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance to make it happen. We're helping clients all over the world create peak results in their health, in their businesses, and in their personal lives. To see if we can help you do the same, head over to peakresultsacademy.com/call. We'll chat soon.